Tim and Kathy Keller are with us. They've been regular guests on our show these last several months or so. And you may know the name, Tim Keller. Him and his wife, Kathy, they have found Redeemer Church in Manhattan in 1989. They've written numerous books together. And here to talk to us about life in the big city. And Tim, Kathy, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing?
Thank you.
We're fine.
Good.
Okay, so we hear that you're Mimi and Papa right now. Is this true?
Yeah, we are. Girls, you want to say hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, who did we just hear from, Kath?
Say what?
Who did we just hear from?
You heard from Lucy and Kate.
Lucy. I love those names.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, they do have some Pittsburgh lineage in them, so they are in some ways,
Our brethren.
they are us, yes, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, I believe your dad and his brothers are all going to meet in Pittsburgh to see a Steelers game, aren't they? Going to the Steelers to Pittsburgh, yeah, they are. My three sons are all going to go on a brothers trip to watch the Steelers play. I'm not sure when, but I've heard that it's being planned.
Oh, that's awesome. That is terrific. All right, so let me ask you, for Lucy and Kate and their other cousins, what's it like to visit Mimi and Papa? I mean, are you guys like the fun grandparents? Are you like the serious, like studious ones? I mean, what's the experience?
Be honest.
I think they're really fun, and they're also very wise, and they know a lot of stuff.
We're not the fun grandparents. The other grandparents, Nana and Grandpa, are the fun grandparents that are silly and dance and take them to the lake and stuff. We're the ones that always have something serious on our minds.
Oh, that's
You're the wise
the
grandparents.
wise ones.
I mean, that's be kind of hard to beat. Let's go see the wise grandparents.
I
right? Yeah.
love that. I love that. Okay, Tim, how's it different being a papa and being a dad?
Oh, dear. Only grandparents know. Sorry, if you're not a grandparent,
Yeah, that's
you
why
can't
I'm
understand.
asking,
That
because I'm
sounds
not a
very
grandparent.
strange.
I need to get it.
Well, I think it's completely fair to put it this way, that when grandchildren come along, it opens a door in your heart to a room you didn't know was there,
Oh,
Huh.
and
really?
that no one else has access to. It is not the same as your children, and it's very difficult to explain that. But it is not the same as anything else. There's nothing quite like it. And so every grandparent I've ever talked to, when I describe that and say there's a unique love and bond that isn't the same as your children, but it's not like anybody else either. Everybody says that's it. It's unique. It's like they have their own room in your heart, their own category, if you want to put it that way.
Interesting.
And I can't really go beyond that. You just grandparents nod and they talk to each other. It sounds very like a secret society.
It does.
And you have to know the secret handshake. But I think everybody, every grandparent always says, "Yep, that's right."
That's cool.
So it's kind of interesting.
Is there something that, you see, the mistakes that you may have made as a parent and think, well, I won't make those with my grandkids because the pressure's off? What do you think, Kath?
It's actually the opposite.
Really?
I see my daughters-in-law being far better mothers and my sons even being far better parents than what we were. And I think to myself, why didn't I have them around to help coach me? And then I realized they were the same age as my kids when I needed the coaching. It would not have worked to have a 3-year-old telling, oh, you're not supposed to do it that way. But no, they are some miraculously amazing parents that my sons married amazing women, and the
isn't
women
that
tutored them.
terrific?
So I feel like I'm learning all the stuff I should have known but didn't back when I was actually a mother.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have 2 daughters, and one of them's at work with me today, and she's 23, and we've just gone through the tumultuous experience of buying her first car. And so, you remember those days, like they've just graduated from college, they're trying to kind of step out and figure things out and establish themselves and that sort of thing. But it was interesting when we were talking yesterday, I was struck again, and this has come to me multiple times as they've been growing up, and I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think about this, is that you raise children, but then you realize at some point that you are also co-heirs in the kingdom, right? And so it's not that I'm not her mom anymore, because I still am, but there's like a different family element that you recognize that, wow, we're all like in this together now. Can you guys
having a relationship. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Having a relationship to your adult children is a whole new ball game. Just when you think that you've got it figured out, you can throw it all away, and it's just, it's all over. It starts all over.
And are you saying that in a good way or a bad way?
Kathy? I would say what Kathy certainly means is that in some ways you not quite start from scratch, but because the relationship is so different than it was when you were in charge, you were in control.
Right.
They were really under your tutelage and control. Now they are equals, and yet at the same time they are still somewhat dependent on you. Mm-hmm. There's still a dependency, and they themselves sense sometimes I'm over-dependent, and then other times they can overdo the independence and forget, well, we're still a family, and there's still deference, and there's still we're still in a relationship in which we're not. It's not the same thing as a friendship, frankly, or any other relationship in which you can choose your friends and you choose your other associates. With the family, you haven't chosen them. So it's a strange spot to be, and that's what I think Kathy means is you go back and forth between maybe taking hands off too much, almost, or keeping the hands on too much, and it's not just you, the parent, or it's also the children. Sometimes are too independent or too dependent. And,
that's interesting.
And very often, sometimes you may if you have two kids. For example, one of them might be too dependent on you, and one, into their 20s, and one might be too independent of you and not really listening to any kind of counsel. So.
We're talking with Tim and Kathy Keller. So speaking to this a little further, Kath and Tim, I mean, you just came back from a vacation at the beach where all of you were together, right? Your adult children, your grandchildren.
Everybody together. Same group.
Yeah, so go into that a little deeper. I mean, that had to be enjoyable, but of course, being together with family, there's also landmines to avoid as well.
Everybody has a little bit different parenting style, and you have to be willing to keep your mouth shut and let the parents handle things, and then sometimes when the parents aren't around, step in, and that maybe the parents aren't real happy with what you said or what you did, and there just has to be some forgiveness and grace. That's why C.S. Lewis said when we go home we can actually drop all the facade of being ciphers, like just voters or employees, where everybody is same unisex and everything's the same,
right.
and assume roles, and but it's necessary for there to be forgiveness and repentance, and you can only do that in the home and in the church. So it's one of those things. Don't try this anywhere but home. Anyway,
Kathy put her finger on it, though. When a child, we have 3 children, 3 sons, 3 families. When a child doesn't do something the first time you say, do it, what is your response as a parent?
Yeah.
The fact is that all 3 of all 3 of the families don't quite respond the same way. They actually now they actually can even tell you how each family has somewhat different style.
And they talk about it to each other. They have
but
really
they
good
do,
terms
and that's
with
the
each
reason
other.
why they're getting along. That's the reason why we really did not have a lot of
drama.
There wasn't a lot of drama because after all these years, every one of the couples now realizes that each couple has a somewhat different philosophy when it comes to some of these things. Yeah. The reason why there's a little bit of conflict is the kids are all together, and so you have all 7 kids together. Very often you have one couple or one parent dealing with all of them, and they'll deal with them the way they deal with their own children. And some of the other cousins will say, "Wait a minute, what?" But the fact is that the kids respect each other's differences now.
That's good.
And they
can
understand the
and they can
differences.
talk about those differences, Tim.
Oh yeah, they
See,
can
that's
articulate
terrific.
them.
That's
They'll
really
sit around,
really
they'll-
good.
Yeah, they'll sit around. They'll say, "Well, now Mike and Sarah do this, and John and Anne Marie do this, and David and Jen do it this way, and we prefer ours, but we also know that there's other philosophy." So they can name that. But I'd say 5 years ago, they were still learning them and feeling like the other people don't know what they're doing.
Wow, it's all of a sudden it sounded like
And
Twitter.
to be fair, they have forbidden us in no uncertain terms from ever teaching or writing a book on parenting because we were so abysmal at it. And so we never have. If you want to know why there's no Keller book on parenting or no sermon or podcast, because we were given a total gag rule by our kids.
That is
Well, thank goodness you were poor at something.
because we're talking to Tim and Kathy Keller, and Tim is a New York Times best-selling author. The Reason for God and the Prodigal God have sold over 2 million copies, have been translated into 25 languages. Tim's latest book is Hope in Times of Fear, the Resurrection and the Meaning of Easter. Okay, so no parenting book for you guys. Are there any other threats that your children have put on you, like don't you dare tell the story about when I did this?
They never had to say that. We just never, and any of you pastors who are out there listening, we just never thought it was appropriate to use family anecdotes as illustrations in sermons. For one thing, it puts too much pressure on your kids, and for another thing, it leaves out the single people in your congregation. If all you're going to do is tell family, kid, parent stories, then the singles are out there saying, "What am I, chopped liver?"
Right.
In fact, I had a pastor who used to routinely send me his sermons and say, "Edit these, critique me," and which I thought was very humble of him. And my most frequent critique was, your only illustrations came from your family life, and not everybody's in a family, so watch it.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk, Tim, about your health. You've been with us several times over these last months, and I've talked about your battle with pancreatic cancer. You sound good. You sound healthy. How are things?
Well, we actually recently did, do a
week ago today. You had your scan.
A scan, and we're not completely done with analyzing things. The main thing that's wonderful, and the main thing that we can be grateful for and keep praying for, is the cancer, pancreatic cancer. When you give it chemo, it sometimes it doesn't respond at all. In other cases, it stops it for a while, but then it just marches right back and goes into the other organs and takes you out. And as we all know, pancreatic cancer is very, very lethal. But for whatever reason, what it looks, even what we got just last week, is the cancer still seems to be almost completely stalled after now 16 months. And, the stats are usually it comes and gets you within about a year in most cases, once after diagnosis. So we're very grateful that it is.
We're
I don't
sure
know
that
why.
it's people's prayer. No, we do know why. People have been praying that the treatment would be effective and that the side effects would be minimal, and we really need that. They've jacked up his chemotherapy back to its original level after giving him 8 months of a lower dosage, just because his body's responded well to that higher dosage. And tomorrow, actually, you could pray because he's having a small little mystery bump removed in his doctor's office. It's not a big surgery or anything like that. We'd like that to be a benign mystery. But so the
answer is it's not remission. It's not remission, but it's at the same time a remarkable response to my treatment so far, and so I'm continuing to chug along.
Fabulous. That's really, really good news. Thanks for that update. And we will continue to pray for you.
Absolutely. Be happy.
So, guys, in the short time that you have left with us, can you talk about, we just as, people, as a nation in many ways. I mean, I think everyone who's watching the news, you've seen Afghanistan and what's happening there, the heartbreak there. Of course, what's happening in New Orleans and the heartbreak there. It's kind of hard to be part of the news cycle, to be alive in the 21st century, to be a believer, and to make sense of it all. I mean, today I was going, I'm kind of like,
weary.
I was weary. Yeah, today at the top of the show, I was just talking about being weary. And Tim and Kath, I'm sure you with your cancer diagnosis and just life itself, right? Living in New York City will certainly make you weary no matter what. How do you guys,
Navigate
balance
that?
all that?
In the short time we have left.
Yeah.
You got 30 seconds to talk about it.
Or you could write your next book about it.
Yeah, right.
Well, actually, I would say this. Here's the thing: is Kathy and I very often we are dealing. There's a little bit of comfort in dealing with pancreatic cancer and just surviving, and just crying out to God. In other words, in some ways, it does take your mind off of all the other problems out there, because you are just saying, I really
in a selfish kind of way. So it's not
not in a
necessarily
selfish
all
way,
good.
but in a way that actually does distract somewhat. On the other hand, what very often we pray every night. Kathy and I always pray at night, and sometimes we just have to dial out and say, Lord, our culture, our society, and the American church, it seems to be in the worst state they've ever been in our lifetime. And we just ask for your mercy and revive and renew our culture and renew our church. So that's a very, very short answer. We dial out, and I would say the weariness, in some ways, it might be a little bit diminished because we're just spending so much of our spiritual metabolism on just dealing with cancer and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But the fact is that we're not ignoring that, and we can't not care about it. And I've actually started doing a little bit of writing about where I feel like at least the church needs to be going.
Yes,
because
and
I don't think it's
put in
ever.
a blurb for that since I'm the editor.
Go ahead.
4 times a year we publish a journal, long-form journalism. Instead of a newsletter, we publish a journal called the Gospel and Life Journal. It'll come out in September, and Tim has a 5,000-word essay in it on. It's the first of a 4-part series on what's the matter with the church and how can it be turned around and fixed. And so this will be the first installment.
And you can't. I know we have to end. You can't talk about that without talking about what's going on in our society, because they kind of go together.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing some thinking about it, John. That's the main
Good.
point. I'm doing some thinking about it.
Good.
But as far as the disasters and the heartbreak and all around the world, Haiti and Afghanistan and that sort of thing, you just have to keep reminding yourself that God is sovereign and He's playing the long game.
Yeah.
We do not see His purposes. We do not understand them. But St. Teresa of Avila is said to have said, once we get to heaven, we will turn around and look at all that we suffered and say, that was like a bad night. One night in a bad hotel.
Amen to that.
Is so good. Well, listen, you guys, at the beginning of our conversation, Lucy and Kate referred to you guys, Mimi and Papa, as, the wise grandparents.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get sappy because we have such a good time with you guys, but we really do count on you both for the wisdom that you bring to all of us in the church. And
Thanks so
so
much.
we're really grateful.
We need you.
Yeah, for your conversation, for all the work that you've produced, and just for the fact that you guys are just brothers and sisters in Christ, and you're just keeping on.
And you're regular people.
That we can sign on to
My
regular
wife's from
people.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
My wife's from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh only produces regular people.
That's
Well,
right. Now, what's your excuse for Philadelphia?
Because it's still barely in Pennsylvania, so we're pretty regular people too.
Tim and Kathy, thanks enough
Take
a lot,
care,
you
you
guys.
guys.
Really appreciate it. Love
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Mimi and Papa, Tim and Kathy Keller.
Yeah.
That's very good. We'll take a quick break, step away. We got more ahead. It's The Ride Home with John and Kathy. We're Pittsburgh's Christian Talk here on 101.5 Word FM. That's WORD.